What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the review video of the $30,000 EGC Elite Classic final weekend. We're going to take a look at what happened in the final weekend of the Elite Classic, including the semifinals, the third place game, and of course the grand finals. Before we go any deeper, of course, this video will contain a lot of spoilers, so if you want to be spoiler-free, if you haven't yet watched any of those sets, then be sure to do that before watching this video if you do not want to get spoiled. So to start off, let's take a look at the brackets over here. A lot of things on the screen right now, but let's just stick with it. So the preceding weekend, we had the round of 8 and the round of 6, so we arrived to the semifinals starting Saturday. First semifinal of the day was B versus Beastie, a long and grindy set that resulted in a B 4-2 victory. That was a surprise to many. We knew that B was playing well, but I do remember myself anticipating Beastie to be the favorite of that set. So to me, this was a surprise. Was an insanely good set. Definitely worth checking out. And of course, second semifinals, Marine Lord versus Lucifron. Marine Lord won in a very convincing fashion, 4-1. And then, looking at Sunday, we did have the grand finals preceded by the third place match. Now, the third place match itself was intriguing because it was really quick. We talk about basically a less than 45-minute long set, if I'm not mistaken. It was insanely short. We had some very quick games. Beastie was at the top of his game, just went over Lucifron. So he's going to be the third-placed player here in the Elite Classic. And then came the grand finals. Now, you look at the score and say, hey, Marine Lord won 5-0. It's a boring set. And I think this is where we have to highlight that the final score does not represent the quality of that series. Right off the bat, the first game was one of the best games in AoE4 history. Definitely a top 5 game I've ever cast. It was stunning, a long game, grindy game, was very back and forth, a nail-biter to the end. If there's a single game you watch from the tournament, it should be that one. I think that was a crazy game. A lot of people think that B's morale got somewhat shattered by a narrow loss in a long game like that. I do not know if that was necessarily the case, but whichever the case, the succeeding games were a little shorter. Marine Lord was at the top of his game. B had his moments. B played very well. It's just the fact that both players playing their best, Marine Lord emerged victorious in all of those games. Every single game, the tiny details went into the favor of Marine Lord, and that's how he ended up becoming the champion of the EGC Elite Classic. Now, in one of the upcoming days, I will have a review video on one specific moment of those games, so we'll deeply analyze a couple of moves that Marine Lord made, so make sure you are around for that. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Those metrics help a lot for me, especially if you enjoy these videos. Likes, comments, and stuff like that are also appreciated. It helps a lot with my work. With that being said, let's quickly take a look at the standings after the group stage. You can see that at the top right. So the top 8 went into the playoffs, and at the end, the player with the highest score in the group stage ended up winning the tournament. Beastie was the second one out there. He finished his third. Vortex got knocked out in the round of 6th. And then Lucifron, he was the 4th place player, also was the 4th place in the group stage. I guess the odd man out is B. He finished 6th overall in the group stage, ended up being the 2nd place of the tournament. With that being said, let's move on to the Silver League, because as I highlighted in my preview video, there is also Silver League going on. This is for the 16 players that did not make it to the top 16 of the main event, and they are fighting for a prize pool of $500. Now, most of the sets from the group stage have been played. You can see the standings from Wikipedia from this morning. A couple of games are still missing. You see Divine having played only 14 games out of the 15. A couple other players standing at 14 and 13 games as well. So there are a couple of more sets to be played before we get to the playoffs. But here are the standings with most of the group stage done. Killjoy, dominant performance, 13-1. Anatan standing at 12-3. 2 players who were considered to be candidates to make it into the main event as well did not manage to qualify, had to try their luck in the Silver League, but you see why they were candidates for the main league. They did well. They are going to be the top 2 players moving directly into the semifinals. Now, the third place is now set. Divine has no mathematical chance to leapfrog Baltoon. So that means that Baltoon is going to get to the round of 6th directly. And basically, it's going to come down to Divine or Corvinus, formerly known as Salami. He did a bit of a rebranding. His new name is now Corvinus. But it's going to be between Divine and Corvinus to decide who gets to the other secured spot in the round of 6th. Divine has one set to be played. I actually checked who it is against, but I totally forgot. So I'm going to have to quickly look that up for you. Divine. I think it's against Mattis, if I'm not mistaken. But I might be wrong on this. Nyan Racing Cat is still yet to play Give You Anxiety. Mattis is yet to play Aliona. And then looking at the other scores... I'm not finding it. Maybe parts of Wikipedia are updated already and this table isn't. Whichever the case, either of these two players will get to the round of 6th. Lash, Dark, Aliona, and whoever doesn't make it to the round of 6th from the duo of Divine and Corvinus will make it to the round of 8th, and that's how the playoffs will look like. Playoffs will likely be played throughout this week, but we don't have a specific confirmation on the times, especially because most of these folks do work full-time jobs, and because it's played during the week, the sets will likely be scheduled based on the individual schedules of the players. Having said that, I will try to catch as many of that as I can. So expect to see a couple of these matchups being put out here on YouTube. And there were some rumors about the finals also being cast on the EGCTV B stream, but we don't have a confirmation on that. In my preview video for the main event, I looked at the schedule, and from what I heard, the finals were scheduled to be played before the grand finals of the main event of Elite Classic. That didn't materialize because the group stage didn't even finish yet. With that being said, that's basically the Silver League. Again, let's quickly take a look at the playoffs of the main event. This is your final 8. I don't think there are major surprises out there. You have the Canadian Bros, you have Marine Lord, you have Beastie, you have B, the Spanish Bros, and Dimu. Kind of what you would expect, and I think the important conclusion to draw from this is that the format, which basically presented the players to play one set against everybody, kind of resulted in what you would expect to be, quote-unquote, a power ranking. Now, I don't think that the playoffs necessarily represent the perfect power ranking here. I think a better representation of what we have in AoE4 right now is shown in the leaderboard on the right. Naturally, you do not have Mista in this event because it's farming season and he wasn't available, so if Mista was around, this would be shaken up. You never know how Recon could perform if he was full-time. He's probably the biggest wildcard over here. Having worked a full-time job, and he's still working a full-time job, it's a little tricky for him to compete with the other guys. But especially the top 8, I think we've got what we expected. I am very happy about how the event went as an outside spectator and as someone that has cast quite a few series. The finals were a blast. I was casting that with Aussie Trongo. If you missed out on that, definitely do check it out. It was a crazy experience. I even tweeted about it. I think I delivered my single best commentary in my life with Aussie. Naturally, shout out goes to Aussie for being such a flexible and great partner. But I think it went great. And if you missed out, especially game number 1 of the Marine Lord versus B set, even knowing the result, I would suggest that you take a look, because if there was a single game I wanted to show a random dude I want to promote AoE4 esports to, that would be the game to show. With that, I think it's time to wrap this up. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Again, I am very open to feedback about this format. I know fully well that the production you see up there, it's not necessarily the most sophisticated thing ever done, but I figured that for now I would focus on the content side of things, and I would just bring you these reviews of these tournaments. So even if you missed out on these sets, you will know what happened. Same thing will be done for the EGC's upcoming event, the Africa Duos, so stay tuned for that as well. We will have a preview video, so in case you don't know anything about the event, that's going to be the one to look at. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for all the support. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've liked, I appreciate if you drop a like to the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps me a lot, and see you in the next video.